Hey everyone, I'm Amanda, and this is Wellness Me Up. This is where we talk about all of the weird and wise and wildly supportive sides of wellness with coaches who you can actually just connect with when you're done pretending that everything is fucking fine in your life. Today, I am joined by Dr. Sun Pandey, right? Who is a metaphysical parapsychologist. And I asked them to sum up their approach to wellness in just one or two sentences. And here is what they wrote. This is great, everybody. Listen in, okay? My approach to wellness is radically integrative. It's blending neuroscience, trauma informed psychology, somatic regulation, spirituality, nervous system healing, and metaphysical insight into a model of human flourishing that honors mind, body, and consciousness as inseparable. Rather than treating symptoms in isolation, I teach people to reclaim sovereignty by understanding the deeper patterns, biochemical, emotional, energetic, social, and spiritual, that shape suffering, resilience, and transformation. So let's see if what they have to share can help you get a little bit more wellnessed up. Here we go. See how what a kick-ass some to wellness. Come on, that's amazing. I've never I like the word inseparable, because they are these elements all intertwine together, but I don't often hear the word inseparable, as we talk about those things. So my mind was like, who is this person? And then I saw, we're going to talk about it. I saw what what your platform is called or what you do. It's called, everybody ready for this? Fucking amazing. It's called Bitch. Bitch. And I love this so much. It's so good. Oh, so fun. You were doing some amazing things out there.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on today.
Welcome. You're welcome. All right. So on this podcast, I explore 6 areas of wellness. And I'd love to know which area of wellness that you support people through and how you actually support them on that journey. We're already guessing from your bio that there's spirituality involved with it, but the other areas to touch on are relationships, emotional, physical, life transitions, and finances. So let us know how you support people on that journey.
It's all integrated, right? And I have over 120 books and courses, and I touch upon all 6 of these. Many touch upon multiple of those in the same book, in the same offering, because they're intertwined, right? And I would say consciousness is at the core of it all. And it affects absolutely everything from the inside out, or you can even say from the top down, in terms of if you look at things like the tree of life in Kabbalistic studies. So I like to think that we're touching upon all 6 of them. I have this book, Sail Beyond Trauma, and this was just released by Balboa Press. And this is the first tripartite system for trauma that exists. And by tripartite, what I mean is, 30, 35 years ago, as a culture here in America, we had our minds cracked open to mind body. And that became a thing, mind, body, and they became inseparable. And people began to understand how healthcare is not just the body, that the mind really has a tremendous effect. And then we have things like the body keeps the score that came out of this work. But I've always found that this was incomplete, that you had to have a soul component, mind, body, and soul, because from a higher level, beyond even this lifetime, there are things that interplay. There's a reason why we're here and why we go through what we go through. And that can all be explored in something called interlife theory, which was developed by Dr. Michael Newton. And I talk about it in this book and the impact that thinking about interlife theory has on your health, your ambitions, your finances, everything that you're doing.
Okay, so my brain is on fucking fire right now. First, when you held up that book and that cover, it transported me. Hold it up again. I have this picture that I took when I was in Greece of this exact moment. So I notice this shit when it comes up, like from like I just notice this when this happens. And I think that was such a surreal moment for me because that was a part of my body when I was finally starting to be in my body. I was traveling, I was living, I was doing the things after coming out of this really diseased state for all of these years. And that interconnectedness, you're right, because there is inseparableness from all of these things. You can't have mind without the body. You can't have soul without the body and the mind. All of these things, they mesh together. Like they're all, you throw them all into a bowl and they're going to make like a delicious cookie, like for your life. Like this is what's going to happen.
They don't just mesh together, they balance each
Each
other,
other.
right?
Ah.
One of the offerings that I had just created recently was talking about how we need to integrate as women. I remember being raised to be either smart or pretty, right? Smart or pretty, like interested in academics or interested in fashion type of thing. And what I like to do is I like to promote being an integrated whole where somebody doesn't shy away from one or the other, but feels free to not only be smart and be pretty, but also be talented and musical and artistic and all of it, right? We don't have to fit in these boxes and have these labels assigned to us. We are complete beings when we embrace the totality of life, the totality of existence. And yes, that also means what we call the good and the bad, right? Um, it can't be all good because polarity is a hermetic law of the universe. It's inescapable. And then we end up in frustration when we can't embrace that, right? So the totality of being as complete as you can be, explore every avenue, right? Explore every curiosity, feed every hunger, right?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes like these images flash in my brain, and this must happen to a lot of people out there when you talk, right? Because this starts to connect for you a memory that was buried down inside that is just coming up right now. And I remember growing up too, and this was I remember talking to a friend, and we're no longer friends, we were childhood friends. I don't even think I remember her name, to be honest, but she was in this, it was like this stereotype of like blonde, and you had to be like, it was like, I'm getting that like visualization, like, like ditzy kind of vibe, right? And she was so brilliantly smart, and she would act as if she wasn't. And I remember calling her out when we were younger. I was like, why are you doing this? You know the answer to this question. Like, why are you doing that? And it was like attention for boys or whatever else. And I remember having like a
Condition.
core memory. And this was what we were taught to do, right? It was
We're
the
conditioned to make ourselves
magazines.
small for other people's
Yes.
comfort. And what that does is it leads to unwellness, right? Because
Yeah.
anytime we're trying to shrink a piece of us, then we are out of balance. And that's one reason why people get a little confused because I am a metaphysical parapsychologist, and I'm also an entrepreneur and an author and an app creator, and I'm also a model, and I'm the reigning Ms. Doctor at New Mexico. And I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks to walk a stage with my crown and my sash and compete for Ms. Doctor at America, right? Sky's the limit.
High five to that. Yes. That's freaking amazing. I love that. See, you're doing, I always use this analogy of a charcuterie because I'm like, you can have such a good spread. You don't have to limit yourself and put yourself into one category. That keeps us stuck. That doesn't keep us in expansive energy. So I absolutely love that this is what you're doing for yourself and you've learned to like be in and have balance and have little bits of everything across because like why you can do all of the things. You don't have to just choose just one thing to stay in. You can choose so many and experience so many things. This is beautiful. I love this. Please send me a picture when you're doing, like, please. I'm on, we're going to be on socials, like, tag me so that way I can celebrate with you. This is so exciting.
Absolutely. And then this fall, I'm going to be competing in a show. A docuseries, one of these reality docuseries. It's called The Blocks, Blox. And that is a competitive, gamified uh, incubator for entrepreneurs. And it's going to be on Amazon Prime. So I'm also participating in that. And when I tell people that I work with, I'm not going to be available for this, that, or the other thing because I'm shooting that week. It's like, what don't you do? Well, I do what I want to,
That's
right?
right. You
That's
can
what
pivot.
wellness looks like for me. Wellness looks
Mhm.
like taking a bite of everything that's out there in the buffet, right? I don't have to just sit down with a plate full of one thing and consume it. And I'm loving this like tapas style, charcuterie style life because it's so rich and it's so full in the multitude of directions that I go in. It's like if you have a chair that has many legs, it just makes it more stable, right? I feel
Mhm.
like my foundation increases.
Yeah. Right. I think of this too, like with kids, right? How often they just, the picky eaters and they don't want to eat things. They just want to have like their mac and cheese and that's all they want to eat. And I'm always saying to my nieces, how do you know you don't like it unless you try it, right? And then, oh my gosh, how did you decide that you like mac and cheese? You must have tried it at one point. So maybe you like other things and doing this and try to encourage that in them because you can do so many different things. I like that bite at a buffet. I'm gonna be borrowing that language because I love the charcuterie board analogy, but I'm gonna be like, I heard about a fucking buffet the other day. I'm limiting myself talking about just a charcuterie spread. I want a whole buffet. That's amazing.
It's
So,
kind of how I
oh,
live. I have a voracious appetite, but I can't consume a lot quantity wise. So I end up taking, a bite or two of everything, and that's about it. And I love it because um, I don't ever get that vibe of deprivation, which is the ultimate killer. The ultimate killer is having that feeling of being deprived and then uh, concentrating on that and amplifying that feeling, right? So even though I'm, getting ready to walk a stage with a gown and I have to fit in these things, right? I never come across something that I'm not willing to take a bite out of. Now, doesn't mean I have to eat the whole thing, but I will allow myself up to 4 bites of anything I want, right? Even when I'm dieting, even when I'm preparing to go walk a stage in a ball gown that's tight that I'll allow myself up to 4 bites because that expansion and allowance, it elevates the whole vibration. Whereas that feeling, even if it's momentary of deprivation, brings your whole vibration down. And I'm acutely conscious of that now after having
mhm.
experimented for years with chronic illness, right? And how to get up out of chronic illness. And so, yeah, I will take a bite of everything,
Mhm.
sometimes two, sometimes three, never more than four.
That's right. You could just do it. Okay, so chronic illness you just mentioned. Say a client, somebody has shown up to you and they found you and they're in chronic illness themselves, or they are restricting themselves to just one plate of the same thing. And they're not experiencing that expansion and like little bites of everything at the buffet. And they don't even know what's going on with them, but they just know that something is off, that something needs to change, that the sameness is happening for them, and they want to get off that fucking hamster wheel. How do you meet them in that moment?
So one of the things that I can do is model, right? The effects of going through the work. And I love to do that with people. I love to talk about what I have been through and how I have come out of it to give the example and set that hope, right? That hope that there is another possibility that other than this moment that I'm in right now that I don't like. Then I gauge the readiness because a lot of people aren't in the place where they're ready to hear that they're not limited and that they are not powerless, but powerful beyond belief. Right? Somebody has to be ready for that message because oftentimes being focusing on what is wrong is what gets help in the moment, right? It gets help in the moment, it gets attention in the moment, and we've learned to do that, and that gets reinforced by the healthcare system. But when you're ready to take a look at the possibilities, then I start to talk about fifth dimension, right? When we talk about one dimension, two dimensions, three dimensions that we're living in here, four dimensions, which includes time, where time, you can see all of time in the fourth dimension. It doesn't go moment by moment like it does in the third dimension. But then there's the fifth dimension where every single possible version of us already exists, right? And then what we have to do is we have to identify with the optimal version. And that takes a lot of work and belief because while you're doing that, while you're choosing your optimal self in the fifth dimension and identifying with that, you can't be checking in the moment in the third dimension for proof. So that's the tricky part is talking to people about that process, about the process of this takes time, right? It's like planting a tree and watering and giving sunlight, and you might not see the results until, next to next season. You can't look and say, oh, this isn't working. It's compound effect. If you go to the
Yeah.
gym for 3 days and you say, I don't see a difference, and you give up, versus going to the gym for 6 months regularly, you're bound to see a difference. It's the same thing. It's understanding that you're going to put in work for something you're going to reap down the road, and you can't be looking for that confirmation and that proof right now and right here because you're not going to find it, and it's going to pop you out of that connection you had with your optimal self in the fifth dimension.
Mhm. Yeah, there's always things going on behind the scenes, right? That are working, that are building us up and doing this work for us. And I like that analogy of the tree, right? Because we don't see the shit that's going on in the earth. Like there's roots that are expanding and growing, and that's nourishing everything to start till it can start to sprout out. So it's a really beautiful analogy to look like these things are happening behind the scenes all of the time. And we're not some I can't count how many times when I was younger. Uh I was over at one point like in my life, it was just 4 years ago, I was over 300 pounds. And back then I used to be gaslit by the medical professionals about how everything, like I could just lose weight, I could do this and all my problems would go away. But I couldn't couldn't do it. I was just stuck in this disease state. I was on the couch all the time. Eating was my only source of food because I had such horrible lower back pain. And I remember being like, oh, I remember trying to get an exercise bike, trying to do all these different things. And I would do it for one day and get discouraged because nothing would happen the next day. And I'd just be on the couch eating again. And I was stuck in this fucking cycle for years until like I had cervical cancer that revealed that I had stage 4 endometriosis. And then I could walk and I could do things. So even that diagnosis of cancer, something was happening behind the scenes. It was all the endometriosis and those symptoms that were giving me, like that was all happening behind the scenes to give me this life that I have now. And so there's always shit that we just don't know about that's happening, but we have to keep showing up and trusting that these things are happening if we're committed to it, right? And advocacy plays like a really big goal in that too. Like you have to, advocate for yourself and keep showing up and doing these things. It's like muscle memory. It's like the example that you gave to the gym, that muscle memory of just going to the gym, showing up all the time. If we keep building this muscle, it's going to happen for us.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I'm
Hmm.
a huge proponent of visualization for everything. Now, let me tell you, I've had 4 knee surgeries, and I've had 4 out of my 6 abdominis rectus muscles removed and relocated elsewhere. That was part of my cancer reconstruction and treatment. And so I should not be walking without assistance, dancing, standing, doing all the things that I do. My prognosis was completely different, right? And I remember when I learned this one type of meditation that has been really powerful for me, what it required when I first learned it was putting my heel in my perineum and sitting like that. And I called them and I said, I think I want my money back because I'm not able to do that. I've had surgeries and you all don't know what it's like to be in a disabled body trying to do these practices. And I was told, just visualize. Don't do it. Just close your eyes and visualize yourself in this position. And my immediate reaction was, cute. Like, really?
Yeah.
Visualize? I remember complaining to my bestie at the time, visualize. They're not going to give me my money back. I got to visualize. But I learned a long time ago, right, not to engage in contempt prior to investigation. That means I have to actually practice what you tell me to do before I shove it in your face and say it doesn't work, right? So I sat down to do their visualization with the intention of proving them wrong. But because I sat down to do it, daily for months because they said you have to give it 90 days. And if at 90 days of doing this, you don't see a result, then we'll talk, right? Okay, I will visualize for 90 days, but I sure as hell I'm not going to get my heel in my perineum by visualizing only, am I? Well, one day I'm sitting outside my condo in Florida and my eyes are closed. I'm visualizing. My friend Holly comes up and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, to be honest, I'm visualizing my foot in my ass. And she was like, "What?" And I said, "This." And I picked up my heel to show her how I couldn't bend it to go by my perineum because I didn't have that kind of motion because I've had all these surgeries. And bam, it went right in the perineum.
No,
And
no,
that
no, 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 no. Right?
open, it cracked me wide open. And I was like, no. So then I did the deep dive into the neuroscience and found out that, yeah, the body, right, the brain only knows what you tell it repeatedly with consistency. That's what it knows. It doesn't know reality. And so it allowed me to um, do this whole visualization where not only am I able to put my heel in my perineum, but 4 surgeries on the knees and 4 missing abdominal muscles later, I'm walking around doing everything I want to do. I mean, it didn't happen like this, right? The visualizations, you spend time and you have to be consistent with them. I remember being bedridden for 2.5 years when I had those 4 abdominis rectus muscles removed, bedridden for 2.5 years in my mother's house as an adult. Can you even imagine?
I
Right?
don't want to.
And it was absolute hell, but I would go into meditation and I would visualize myself dancing with my daughter on the beach in Florida. So for 2.5 years, not being able to move, I was doing the same exact visualizations. I lived that moment dancing with my daughter on the beach in Florida at least 10 years ago. I had that cancer 19 years ago, right? I
Mhm.
had cancer 3 times and I am a stage 4 survivor.
See, I'm just fucking high-fiving the camera every time today. Boom, boom, boom. Like,
Yeah.
yes,
It was
that's
a
freaking
tumor on my
awesome.
trachea that just gone, just
Gone.
yeah. And
Mhm.
that's when it was like, okay, this needs to be a part of my practice because I was a therapist at that point in time doing play therapy with nonverbal children. I wasn't doing the wellness coaching that I'm doing for complete and total transformation.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what made me study metaphysical parapsychology and get my PhD. Was I was absolutely um, enamored with the fact that metaphysics can be
Mhm.
utilized and help us so incredibly in our healthcare journeys, and that none of this is being spoken to by the billion-dollar industries that we have that are caring
Hmm.
for the physical health.
Hmm. Um, yes, 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 yes. There is so, and I like it's like that phrase, and I can't remember how you worded that with. It's coming to my brain is don't knock it till you try it, but you rephrased it a lot differently than that. But that's like how it's translating in my brain.
Contempt prior to investigation.
Investigation, contempt prior to investigation. Okay. So, yeah, don't knock it till you try it, contempt prior to investigation. And if you actually try these things and you do these things, you can notice change. But a lot of us are like, oh, it's not working. Oh, it's not, I'm not doing it. Or they're not giving enough of an effort to do these things and to try it and shift it. And there is so much power out here that people just haven't even tapped into with doing these things. My brain was lighting up too with hearing your own visualization and the dancing that happened with your daughter and having that come to fruition. That was the same visualization technique that I think about when I think of aspiring and my hot air balloon. I can't count how many fucking years I was on that couch just dreaming of a life of being able to travel, dreaming of a life to get up in that fucking hot air balloon. And I did it. I did it like not long after my hysterectomy to treat my cervical cancer. And that visualization on repeat, Reiki was really helpful for me with that.
Mm-hmm.
And in a weird, fucked up way, and this is something that I've talked about with my cancer journey, like I was actually manifesting my cancer to spread because I wanted my cancer to spread because I wanted the hysterectomy. And my doctors weren't going to give me a hysterectomy unless the cancer had spread. So I was like at home fucking wishing that cancer was spread. Like, how backwards is that? And then freaking out because I'm thinking, oh shit, the cancer is spreading. Like, what am I doing? What, like, but then I'm like, just enough to get that hysterectomy, just enough to get this to push through. And it turns out that's exactly what my body needed was that fucking hysterectomy to get, and
Well,
like, it's
all of
amazing
this
what can
stuff comes
happen.
up for a reason, right?
Yes.
I would say we put it in our path to serve a particular purpose, right? But then we get so caught up in the experience and how horrific it is that all we do is focus on that. And that's bringing our own vibration down and taking us out of a place where we have agency, right? Because we need to vibrate at a higher level. When I say that, I'm talking about Hawkins' map of consciousness, right? Where he delineates the lower consciousness, the upper consciousness. I think it's a scale from 0 to 1,000, and you want to be at least above 700. That's from Power versus Force, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkins' book, which is amazing. But yes, applied kinesiology also taught me a lot about where I want to maintain my vibratory levels, right? And what brings them down. And what brings them down is consistently dwelling on all of the stuff that's happening in the moment that I don't like, right? That is what will bring me down. So when I get caught up about, this isn't fair and this sucks and this is painful, um, and I stay in that spot, that's where my vibratory rate is creating more of that. Life is painful, life is painful, life is unfair. And the attention engine is just churning, making more of that. Life is unfair. Okay, life is unfair. We are connecting with non-local consciousness 14 to 16 times a second, delivering information about our awareness of our experience. And along that tree of life, it just starts like churning down the tree, creating our reality until it just sort of like poops out physicality, right? This physical world, when they say as above, so below, the so below kind of gets like pooped out, so to speak, from the as above into,
Mm-hmm.
solid creation. Once I realized that, it all became like, don't stuff it. If you're hurting, by all means express it, but lift it up with gratitude and shift where your mind goes immediately after. Don't stay in that spot, right? Vent, let it go, have gratitude, lift the moment, and then stay up here.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's such a useful tool to help shift that stuck energy that happens, because we are always going to be looking for things to validate our experience, to validate what's happening in our life. We're going to see that proof because we're looking for it. We're going to look for the pattern. We're going to look for the things that are proving what it is that we believe about ourselves. But we can have these thoughts, but I like that idea of like, hey, gratitude, and then level the fuck up. Level up after that. Okay, so I'm having so many realizations as it is right now, just from talking with you. I think I've known you less than an hour. And holy shit. So when clients are working with you and they're also spending less than an hour with you, you must have seen this so many times where you experience some sort of shift or moment for them, what that just propels them right into those wellness realizations and their goals. So tell us, like, what are some of the things that have happened that you've seen that's just like, this is a thought that tends to unlock things for people.
Okay, so one of the big thoughts that tends to unlock things for people is to let go of this expectation that if you just do everything right, life is okay and fair and good, right? The reason why this is called Sail Beyond Trauma and there's a boat is because I'm trying to get people to think of life differently, right? We were taught when we were younger that if you just do everything right, like do your homework and be a good person and listen to your parents and go to church or temple, and then you go to college and you pick your major, you pick your minor, you do everything right and you pay your taxes and you get married and you pop out the kids and life is beautiful. And that's not how life happens for anybody, right? It's a series of um, having waves approach us, and some of them knock us down, right? So, what we need to do is we need to understand that we always have waves coming at us. Life is always bringing these waves, but we are a captain of our ship and we are adjusting our sails. Right. So my trauma therapy is called couple OT, and couple OT is Tamil, which is an Indian language. It's Tamil for adjust your sails. And I wanted to give it a Tamilian name because all of this stuff comes from ancient Indian texts. All of what I teach, I didn't invent any of it. It all comes from ancient Indian texts, and I'm repackaging it for a Western mind, right? So if we think about we're a captain, we're on a ship, there's nothing but waves coming. But if we take a look at which waves are coming and what do we need to do and how do we adjust accordingly, then we're charting a path for life on the bliss lane, because then you're ready, right? And what does that readiness mean? So there's three parts. There's mind and there's body and there's soul. So there's the mind part where mentally we get stuck, right? And we also start creating some of this physicality. There's the body part where our polyvagal response gets us in fight and flight mode, right? And so we have to deal with that. The anxiety, pairing the mind and the body together, and how the brain will work with that polyvagal response to then reinforce that, right? It becomes like a cycle. And then there's the spirit soul part where we talk about inner life theory. So I mentioned that briefly earlier with you. Interlife theory is something that was brought to us by Dr. Michael Newton. Now, he's a guy who in the 50s and 60s was really, really intrigued by, all right, if people can regress themselves into past lives, right? And that was kind of new in the West and very popular. What happens if we regress them into the space between lives? Like, where do they go after they've died and before they're incarnated in the next life? So he regressed thousands of people into this interlife space and documented all of the case studies in his varied books, Destiny of Souls, Journey of Souls. And I was given these by an oncology counselor when I was going through cancer for the second time. And I did the deep dive into these books, and it changed the way I thought about my own journey, right? Because I am the ultimate resilience queen, right? There's nothing that can really get me down and keep me down. Now, you can knock me down and I get right the fuck back up, right? But how did I get that way? So if we want to create resilience souls, right? Resilience people. We want to put them through a boot camp. Because if I want to create a resilient soldier, let's say, like the military, I'm going to create a boot camp that's hard, right? That really, really tears them down so that they can be resilient, right? If I send them to day camp, they're not going to be resilient soldiers. So similarly, I think about my soul that if I'm supposed to be this resilience queen, right, then I'm going to create the most difficult, challenging boot camp for myself that I can possibly imagine. So let's put in I was born premature. Then I had my first episode where I was held at gunpoint when I was 4 years old. I had child sexual abuse in my home growing up with an older sibling, yada, 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 all the way to date rapes at frat parties. Then let's go to my first tumors when I was in college, 3 tumors I had removed. Small wonder with the setup that I just told you about. Then let's go to 9/11. I'm a 9/11 survivor. And after that, ended up with cancer 2 more times. Um, I had a daughter who was born with autism, and then her father chose to become a non-custodial person battling with addiction who was just not in her life. So then I had to support my daughter myself while going through cancer multiple times, right? And all of this just leads up to me becoming the badass that I am today, right? It's almost as if before I entered this incarnation, someone gave me a challenge and I said, hold my beer.
Mm-hmm.
So with that perspective now, when things happen, and they happen, right? Life doesn't stop happening, but I don't go to the same stories of why me? Why always? This always happens. And, life is just unfair to me. No, I go to a point of view of like all of this is there to make me stronger, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I get stronger so that I can shine light for other people. My entire purpose here is to be a reflection of God in the world. I was given that purpose when I had a 5-day coma in 1993 because of a suicide attempt, because of how I had perceived my life till that moment, right? All of this had brought me into these circumstances that are so traumatic. It's hard to imagine anyone coming out of all of that. I mean, 9/11 itself is one thing, cancer itself is another thing. Add all of these things together, and people are surprised I'm still here, but even more surprised that I'm freaking joyful all the time, right? It's all
Mm-hmm.
perspective because now when something happens, I'm not a victim. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
soldier who's this is part of my boot camp, right? What strength am I getting from this? And I've gotten a lot of strength from all of the suffering that I've gone through, all of the heartbreak that I've gone through. It's helped me to exist as a single person. I've been single for more than a decade now, consciously by choice, right? Because I love who I am, free and alone, right? I do what I want when I want. My life is amazing. I create all these things and I give them to the world. I had been inculcated from birth. We all have been to, find myself complete when somebody loved me, right? And we wonder why there's a loneliness epidemic going on, but all our stories that we raise our children with are about finding completion through love, right? And it's always an image of love that's just not achievable, even ever. And so I broke down all of the different things that trauma had done to me and realized that they were all assets if I thought about them differently. And so reframing everything I've been through, everything I continue to experience has been like a superpower for me. And that is what my bliss is from. It's not that life doesn't happen. I have osteoporosis from having cancer so many times and all the, treatment, the chemo. all of the stuff, right? I constantly fracture, constantly end up in, you know, crutches, canes, wheelchairs, rollators, right? All of that stuff. And I accept it. It's temporary because I know that once I go through that and get out the other side, I'm stronger as a result of it. And I can't even imagine um, well, I can imagine because I'm living it, but the thought of if you had told me 20 years ago that I would be walking without assistance, I would have never believed you, especially after being bedridden for 2.5 years in my mother's house and having the muscles required to keep me upright removed, right? It just
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense physiologically. But that's where the metaphysics comes in. The metaphysics has really taught me that um, there is no limit. It might take a lot of work, and it definitely takes time, but with the right perspective, I can always lift myself into wellness.
Mhm.
Always.
I like that visualization of lifting yourself into wellness. And we can have different perspective shifts. Like shitty, horrible things can happen to us all the time or that are going to knock us on our asses. And it's not about toxic positivity or swinging that way or whatever else, because shitty things are still going to happen. You're still going to have shitty days. Like it's not always going to be like sunshine and rainbows and all of the stuff that's going on, right? Like, but we can look at that experience and we can just, instead of going into that victim state, we can be like, hey, this is going to be really fucking hard and I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get to the other side of this. I might need to do some things differently. I might need to learn some new tricks. Might need to slow things down and do whatever. And I'm stubborn as fuck and whatever that looks like for you. But you can get to the other side of those things. But
And
sometimes what happens, and I've noticed this growing up my whole life, it was always that messaging, oh, bad things always happen to us. It's always us. We always get to the, like, it's nobody else has had this kind of grief that we've had. We've gone through this stuff. And at some point, like, I just got so fucking sick and tired of sitting around talking about how sick and tired everybody is. And I'm like, this is not the vibration that I want to be in anymore. Like, this does not feel good. And it was such a state and reflection of where my body was and my mental health was, because I was surrounding myself with people that were also thinking that way. And so, yeah, like the perspective shift, I think for sure. That boot camp analogy that you gave and that lifting yourself up out of wellness, like, is a huge realization that people can have.
and
So
then
again, my brain is all, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
also, giving people the option of utilizing altered states of consciousness, right? That's something that nobody talks about in the medical field. And when I say that I spent 2.5 years bedridden in my mother's house, I mean, that's just one, time. I have spent chunks of my life bedridden or even like just frozen. 3 years ago, I had a car accident where I broke my sternum and I was sitting upright in a chair. I couldn't even lie down in bed for 3.5 months, just sitting upright in a chair and not being able to even lie down, right? And every time I coughed or I sneezed or I laughed, it just hurt so much. And what I learned to do was breathe in and out of that harsh pain and utilize other levels of consciousness, right? We are here in this level right now, which is called Jagrat and Jagrat in the Indian um, culture. But it's one of 25 different states of consciousness that we can travel through on a regular basis. 25 different states of
Mm.
consciousness. And that's an offering that's in my app, but it's all based on ancient Hindu teachings. It all comes from Upanishads and Vedas, right? I'm not making up any of this, and other people talk about it too, not just me. But I learned how to travel in other conscious spaces in order to escape a lot of the hurt that was here in this conscious space. That was a
Mhm.
gift. That was an
Yes.
absolute gift to be able to escape my pain, not through getting addicted to opiates, which is something that I did struggle with many years ago with a lot of my medical conditions. And so I'm acutely aware of the hold that they can have on you. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to explore other states of consciousness and consciousness spaces rather than have that be my only other option, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Um, I also like with the the way that my body was, I also self-medicated and did that for years. And so that is a thing that sometimes comes along with these, hidden ability, like hidden disease states that we are in. And I liked how you worded that different levels of consciousness because I don't think I knew what it was that I was doing back then, but I was creating those spaces in my mind. I had a very vivid imagination. I still do. I still think that's why I can manifest and bring things forward in my life because I can think about it and then I can go and action it. And I don't even know how to translate into human words what happens in my brain with the flashes and the memories that are happening all at once. But I can do it. Like I was always saying that I'm like, fuck, I'm powerful. I'm like, I can make you dream about me. Like I can actually do that if I wanted to do that. Like it was a fun technique that I had learned and it would work. Like people would call me the next day and they would have dreamt about me. And I had so much fun playing around with that with different energies and levels. And I was like, what else can I do from this couch? Right. So I had a very full life, even from living life on the couch. I call her the girl on the couch.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And I
Metaphysics
like that you're giving me the
fun.
words and the vocabulary for it because I didn't have that then. And I'm still learning a lot of these things. Okay, so I'm
But
surprised
I
as
just
fuck
want to
listening.
mention
Oh
that
yeah, go ahead.
if you get my anybody, if you get my app, Life in the Bliss Lane, the 25 levels of consciousness are available as a free tool in the app. I actually don't charge for that because I just want to get the information out there. There are several free tools that I offer in my app, and then there's a lot of premium content. But anybody can go take a deep dive into these 25 levels of consciousness by accessing my free app, Life in the Bliss Lane. Go explore, learn.
I'm gonna go and play. I'm gonna go into the playground and have some fucking fun here. And I'm like so surprised by my brain is just very excited to learn the terminology that you're sharing with us today. Speaking of surprises too, so that's a question that I ask on this podcast is what do your clients get most surprised by after when they're working with you?
That it actually works. The same way I was surprised by visualizing my foot in my ass, right? I think that they're ultimately the most surprise that is expressed to me is, holy shit, this stuff really works.
I think that needs to be the title of this episode. Visualize your foot in your ass. And that is literally what needs to happen. I need to write that. I'll come when I edit this, we're gonna come back and be like, visualize your foot in your ass because that is so it is this is what you need to do. And it does work and it is surprising as fuck to start going through these things that this is actually changing your life and you can do this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the next fun thing I'd love to do on this podcast because and we've already talked a lot about this in throughout our conversation today is we can be going about life and we can be doing all of the things and life just starts lifing out there and we can't control if something's about to happen to us. We can't control if maybe another round of cancer happens, maybe somebody we know gets cancer, maybe we fall and we hurt something because we're trying to fucking walk or do something we couldn't do because we're like, hey, foot in the ass thing, I'm trying to visualize something, I twisted my ass, I don't know, or twisted my knee, who knows what's happening, twisted the foot, anything can happen. I don't think you can twist your ass. Can you twist your ass? I'm not sure, but weird things fucking happen all of the time. Scary, sad things happen in our wellness stuff all of the time. It's not always wonderful. We can feel like shit's a lot of the time. This is why a lot of people are probably listening to this podcast because like, I feel like shit. I want to stop feeling that way.
Mm.
And we can't control things. And one of the things that I've just loved over the last like couple of years is seeing the development of AI and technology. And I have some robot assistants. I remember way back when talking about having a robot one day And now I've got fucking robot assistants. And I think it's so much fun and amazing. So what I do is I get ChatGPT or Claude, whatever robot assistant I'm using today, to put some questions into this picker wheel, and we're going to spin it and we're going to see what we're going to talk about. It could be totally fucking profound, something to do with wellness, or it could be like, oh my, like, I don't know, like, I didn't think I was going to fucking admit that about myself today. Like, who knows what could happen? Who knows? So let me share screen and we'll spin this thing and see what the robots want us to talk about with wellness. Okay. Can you see it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's spin it. Let's see. Spin music. I always like the shoulders, like when everybody's like, what's this music happening? Okay.
Yeah.
Right? What's your healing era outfit right now? What is your healing era outfit right now? Well, what are we wearing?
So, I'm wearing a kimono. I love these long flowing kimonos that are, I have them made in India, special made just for me, because I like to wear the local um, fabrics from the textiles from India, but in like a Western style. So long flowy robes, lots of
Comfortable
beads. Yeah. Um,
colors, all of it,
bright
right?
colors, bright
Yes.
colors. I just absolutely love to be like loosey goosey, flowy, you know.
Mhm.
Having like if there's a wind, you're gonna see my clothing like trail behind me
Yes.
in the wind, and then usually like a cowboy hat. So I live in New Mexico, and I am the reigning Miss Doctor at New Mexico. So
Mhm.
to represent, I will usually have like a pink or a brown cowboy hat on as well. And boots, you know, not just because we live in the land of tarantulas and snakes and scorpions, but I just love the feel of like flowy clothes and boots and a hat, right? Like I am
Mhm.
this like a queer cowgirl, right? I'm just a queer cowgirl.
I love it so much. You have such an eccentric vibe to you. And I was going through your pictures, all the things. I'm like, she is fucking fun. I have my
This
one friend who always says she has such a cool wardrobe. And I just love, love, love how she dresses and expresses herself. And she's always says that whole phrase, if not now, when? Like, wear it. If you have something amazing, fucking wear it. When else are you going to wear it and do this stuff? So, oh,
And then I have functional jewelry. So this is all stuff that is local to New Mexico, made by local New Mexico artists. But everything that I wear is functional. It has some sort of an effect metaphysically on my body. So lots of crystals and that kind of stuff as well. And I want to mention, you know, crystals are such a incredible part of my wellness journey. I've even written about certain canyons in India with the piezoelectric effects of the rocks and the rivers flowing through those canyons and then bringing that goodness. And every week, my daughter and I go to the hot springs that are coming from underneath the volcano just north of us and soaking in these hot springs that have got magnesium and lithium and all this stuff. So, wellness for me isn't just like, well, medications and supplements, you know, and treatments. Wellness is, you know, going to the hot springs instead of, you know, perhaps choosing that instead of an antidepressant, you know, which might work slightly above placebo levels. You know, I
mm-hmm,
find my wellness all around me, everywhere.
mm-hmm.
Just, you know, going out for a hike, right? Being among certain plants and trees that give us things that we can only get from plants and trees, which means that we ought to be in contact with them.
That's right. I am actually thinking about that tomorrow. I'm like, I need to go and marinate in a forest because I just need to be there. That's what I need to do right now. It's so good. You already started leaning into the last question. So, okay, we've got your outfit now. We got your healing air outfit looking good. The last question I ask on the podcast is what does wellness me up mean to you in your own words?
So it means assisting in the upliftment, right? When I hear wellness me up, I think of the person who offers their hand to lift you up when you're down, right? And it's going to bring me into talking about my nonprofit. So all of these books and courses and the app that I have go to fund my nonprofit. And my nonprofit is a queer temple. It's called the Bliss Institute and Transdimensional Consciousness Hermitage, bitch. And so the institute is the learning part, right? The books and the courses, but then the hermitage part is creating a sense of belonging in queer community, because through my own investigations, I found that we have queer gods in ancient India, and they're written about, and they're also on temples that still stand, that are thousands of years old, and have these intricate, ornate carvings that um, are representative of all of what I call LGBTQI, because that just sounds so much better than LGBTQ. So the whole LGBTQI world in these ancient carvings in India, in these temples. And we've been so badly colonized that most Indians themselves don't even realize that this is a thing. So my IP, my offerings go to fund the creation of this temple, which will create awareness and belonging amongst people by letting them know that that queer community is thousands of years old. And it's not anything new. It's not, taking nature and twisting it. It is nature, right? Um, so now I'm going to forget what your question was, but I feel
It's
like
about the name of the
lifting me
show and
up.
what the wellness me up means to you. Exactly. And you
So,
said lifting up. Yes, reaching out with the hand.
so yes, that's what it means to me. Is I feel like bitch is helping with wellness me up, because by giving a feeling of belonging to the most marginalized community, right, we are cultivating wellness, we are lifting people, we are decolonizing the mindset and getting back to connecting, right, community engagement, interaction, right, that's wellness me up.
Oh, I love this so much. There are so many ways. And I'm going to go right back to the beginning of the podcast, right? Because of how you even introduced wellness in your one or two sentences to approach wellness, and that inseparableness. Like we're all inseparable. We're all one. And I actually have a good friend of mine, Indigenous friend, and he always says we are all of one mind. And so what you're saying here really is just sparking that image up in my brain, that inseparableness, and how we
Yeah.
can all just reach and help each other up. Like we can do that. When you fall down, we got you. Let's
And
bring you up
that's
here with us.
I'm really glad that you mentioned your Indigenous friend, because that's par for the course with Hinduism. I come from a background of Kashmiri Shaivism, and that particular part of Hinduism acknowledges that every living being is actually Shiva experiencing the world in all of the different permutations that were
Hmm.
possible, right? Like the
Hmm.
collapse of the wave function in physics. We talk about how everything is possible. And so the story goes that God wanted to experience all the different permutations of existence, and so created infinite lives where they're all completely different. And that's why we can't be somebody else. We've got to be us, right?
Hmm.
Because if we're all the same person, then there's no variability and there's no fun in that. And so when I reach out to somebody else, I don't necessarily see them as another person. I can see them as a variation
Hmm.
of me in space time that I'm helping, right?
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. And I think it's the collectedness happening, that imagery is happening in my mind, right? With that. I love that that's what she does, is goes around to everybody and lives that and experiences that. That's very fun. I have learned so much from you. in this, like, and again, I think it's been an hour that we've hung out and known each other. Like, imagine what it's like to work with you and to keep being in your orbit and to just keep learning and dissecting and expanding. So cool. I want people to know how to get in touch with you. That's what I want to know next. How do they know how to get to know more of you and to get those free downloads with the 25 you said levels to do all that stuff? You've got
Mhm.
an app, you've got Bitch going on, you've got so many cool things. So how do people get to know you?
My website is lifeintheblisslane.com, and my app is called Life in the Bliss Lane, and that's downloadable on Apple and Google Play. And my app is also available just on a computer. You don't have to download it onto your phone if you don't want to take up space in your phone. And the easy way to do that is lifeintheblisslane.passion.io.
Amazing. So good. And I know you and I are probably going to keep shooting the shit after I hit like stop recording and whatever else. But if there's anything that is kind of coming into your mind that you're like, oh, fuck, I wish I had said that to you or mentioned this, let me know. And otherwise, I can hit end.
Thank you so much for having me, and let's continue our discussion. But I think that this has been an amazing podcast spot for me. And so thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to your audience members to go check out the offerings on Life in the Bliss Lane and or get in touch with me if you'd like to work with me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been really, really meaningful. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, everyone, here is to getting a little bit more wellness up one episode at a time. We will catch you next time.